I hope everyone's having a good Sunday morning. We have sunshine in Cleveland, so we're on a good track. I'm going to show you my Deco Days journal that I just finished. And cover was basically added to an old book cover, and I have this copy from a vintage pattern catalog and some antique lace, and this is also antique lace that I use for the closure, and a little tiny mother of pearl slide, so it's easy to just loosen this up a little bit and pull it down off of here. And if you add more, which I don't know if you want to add more because it's pretty chunky, but you can. So we'll open it up, and we have these ladies and gentlemen that I glued to fabric and made into a tuck spot. And behind them is a card I made out of just some vintage papers that I had, extra papers. And I stamped these Deco ladies, and I used a piece of music paper and some Deco paper. I will put the link in for this paper into the description because I used it throughout here. And I don't normally use just one kind of paper, but in this case it just worked really well for this project. So you can see these great papers that have these great graphics on them. I coffee dyed all the papers. This lady was also from a catalog, and she's also on fabric, so you don't have to worry about her little doll falling apart here, although you could glue it down if you prefer. This pocket was made actually out of a vintage Deco card, a greeting card, and I just fussy cut it around the bow and made it into a tuck spot. And behind it is a Valentine card, and I left the card and the envelope intact since it's unused. And it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, of course I have a copy of it, so I thought I'd put the original card in here. Some more great papers. This lady on the cologne, beautiful, right? I glued her down to, this is actually a lace remnant from a cuff from an old dress, and it was pretty tattered, but the beautiful lace and the beautiful border of it, I wanted to find a way to use it, so I just glued it down behind this pocket, and I just tucked a piece of paper to use for journaling or whatever that's also coffee dyed. Tucked that inside here. And then another card where I actually, beautiful, isn't it? It's so soft and feminine, and I found this beautiful antique lace in my stash, and it just kind of fit. So I glued it on top of the card, so it's got this very soft femininity to it. And inside I added this little booklet. The cover is missing, so I basically just sewed it back together. But it's got some great Deco images inside. Talks about how to make your eyes beautiful, basically. Great images, right? So that's the original, and I tucked that inside of here. Great papers, great colors. These ladies are another stamp that I have, and on the border, I stamped them onto this great paper background, but on the border I used pieces from this antique transfer pattern that I have. This is from the envelope of the pattern, so I used this for the card. and tucked it inside, but I thought this made a pretty border. Great paper, right? These designs are just amazing. So this is another couple from that fashion catalog for patterns, and inside I tucked this postcard, which has a postmark on the back of 1922. So I thought it fit very nicely in here. The Deco lines and the graphics are just beautiful. More pretty paper. Got a lot of compliments on this lady, and she was actually part of a full card, and the whole background was black all the way around, so I fussy cut her out somewhat. And then I glued her to a copy of, this is a love letter that I have from dated 1930, and inside here is another love letter from the same person. So I put a copy of that inside, but then I glued her to this tuck spot I made. And I just love the little poem she wrote at the bottom. Sleep softly, my love, long as the night is dark, and may your slumber not be disturbed by bad dreams which leave a mark. Pretty, huh? So I did a little bit of stamping on here, but I think the graphics spoke for themselves. And then this beautiful lady, and another piece of paper I tucked inside, and behind her I tucked this beautiful piece of antique lace, just to give her a little bit of emphasis, and this beautiful piece of tatting. This lady, I think I bought this image on Etsy. I used some of the lace or beaded remnants from a antique silk dress I've used before in some of my cards, and to create my Gypsy Queen. So these just lovely were appliqued onto this beautiful silk dress that is totally disintegrated, but I continue to use pieces of it in my work just to highlight it, and look how beautiful they are. So I thought they really set this off nicely. Great paper. Another piece of antique lace, and I made this tuck spot, just covered her a little bit with lace. But inside the tuck spot is this great card with different accessories. Thought that was appropriate in here. And then this piece, I just love this piece. And it goes on in further into the, so the back of the piece is here. So I wrapped it around the signature, and even wrapped it again around the last page of the signature, because I didn't want to take it apart. It was just too lovely. And you can see at the ends, someone had sewn it together at the edges, but it was, the stitching was falling apart. So I thought, let me see if there's a way I can use this without taking it apart, and this is what I came up with. So isn't this beautiful? I love applique. It's one of my favorite things, and this is just gorgeous applique. And peeking behind is another one of my Deco ladies. And you can just flip it up and see her with her mask. This was from a antique costume pattern. And then another lady from that same pattern. And I used some pattern for antique transfers from a Deco pattern that I have, and some really pretty trim that has a great border. And I also glued her to fabric and attached her to the card. And then this is also a piece of the original, still flipped around, so I just added a little piece of lace trim to the border, and I left it open because I kind of liked it that way. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to what I do. I just do it. Pretty, huh? Like, I love the gold and the pink together. So this piece, isn't it beautiful? Look at the very, very tiny petty point, tiny embroidery stitches on this very sheer piece of fabric. So the piece I used here is actually folded over, so it's not quite as sheer as it would otherwise be, but I wanted to give it a little more structure, and I just glued it down to the page, left a little hanging off the ends, and inside is this lady with her lipstick, and I glued also a piece of the fabric, the same fabric, and wrapped it around, and on the bottom you can see this quote from an old book page. "You've never drunk champagne before?" I just thought it was fun. Like I said, no rhyme or reason. So this is all sewn to a hidden binding. This is from a set that was an antique white sale advertisement. So I took it apart. I took the copies apart. So these are copies of different pages of that ad. And so I added some lace here and a piece of lace here. And then this flips up so you can take out the insert. It's just a plain journal card. The pink page behind it. And then there's some lace behind it here on the page, just to give it a little femininity. And then this beautiful lady. I love the colors in this one. And another piece of antique lace at the bottom that just kind of tucks her in there. And just a few pieces, again, of this great paper. So here again is the other side of that little purse. I guess it was maybe a linen purse or a lingerie purse. I'm not quite sure what it was used for, but look at this beautiful work on here. Kind of a linen feel to it. Here's the fabric that I used for the hidden binding. This lady is just in a pocket that is made from a piece of vintage sheet music, and I roughly cut it out and stamped on it a little bit. She's a pretty flapper looking lady. And this is from another antique book page, Sacrifice to the Graces. I just thought it looked pretty there. And all these great coffee dyed pages. Copy of a Life magazine cover, 1924. And then this lady tucked inside with some dyed paper on the back. Just tucks in real. I just thought that picture was so pretty. I just wanted to kind of leave it as is. I love the colors in it, and I thought it really worked well in here. I kind of overstuffed this thing, so I'm going to have a little trouble keeping it open at some point. A cover of a Needlecraft magazine from 1926. Another one with beautiful colors in it. 10 cents. Wouldn't you love that? And then I tucked another antique postcard inside. And it was kind of just written, scribbled on the back, so I covered it up with a piece of paper. But I also added this waxed petals and leaf, and just put them in this message space on the postcard. I like the daisies. I thought they were pretty in here with the colors in here. And this is an antique Valentine. Well, close to antique, I'm sure. And it was already die cut. And then I took these kids from another Valentine and fussy cut them a bit and sewed them to fabric or glued them to fabric and just tucked them inside. I thought it was kind of cute with the bow and the candy and the bow and the flowers. I thought that was sweet. And then the last page is a vintage hanky. Look at that beautiful work on there. Very tiny little flowers. I love this hanky. And these ladies are glued to fabric, and they're glued down for the most part on the page, so you could still tuck something in there. But I wanted to show off the ladies, and I added another pretty border to this one. So that was it. I enjoyed making this one. I love the Deco era. I think the 20s and 30s are my very favorite to work with. Kind of more fun and joyful era. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't knock my camera around too much. Have a great Sunday, and I hope you have sunshine like I do. Enjoy the sunshine. Bye.